Welcome back, Dr. Linda here. We are going to look at skeletal muscle fiber types. Now we have fast fiber types and slow fiber types. Now these fast fiber types are usually called white fiber types and slower called red fiber. Now the fast fiber, they contract very quickly. They don't have much mitochondria, which means if they don't have lots of mitochondria, they're going to fatigue quickly. So they're fast to contract, but they're also fast to fatigue. They're involved in strong contractions. I used to do a lot of powerlifting, very powerful, very strong. I had great fast fibers. Okay. I could lift lots of weight fast and quick. Slow fibers, these are slow to contract, slow to fatigue, and they slow to fatigue because they have lots of mitochondria, high oxygen supply. So these are more of like your marathon runners, right? Your postural muscles. Postural muscles, they can contract for hours at a time without fatiguing. But your eye muscles fatigue pretty quick. You can read at night, you can fall asleep, right? They're different types of fibers. So white fibers, these are fast fibers, fast to contract, fast to fatigue. We think of turkeys or chicken. The breast is white, right? You know, white meat and dark meat. When you talk about turkey and chicken, everyone kind of has a preference. Whereas the dark meat, the red fibers, these are slower to contract and slow to fatigue. These are the legs of the turkey, right? So there's dark meat and white meat with these birds. It's because when you don't see turkeys flying in the air. They're using their legs. So these are the ones that are driving all the blood to that. So they're nutrient dense. Your dark muscle are going to have all the cholesterol. It's going to have all the B vitamins. They're more nutritious. The white meat are going to have less because there's less blood driving nutrients to them. You don't, the chicken breast, the flight feathers, right? They're not flying. So this is going to be the light meat, the light meat. Okay. So when you look at postural muscles, these are the slow to fatigue. They're darker in color here. When you look at, let's say, the eye muscles, these are fast to fatigue. They look much whiter. So these are white, these are red fibers. Fast to contract, you know how quick the eyes can move from side to side, but they also fatigue easily. Now, finishing up with muscle physiology, when muscles are contracting and you're exercising, they can hypertrophy. This is when muscles grow. There's increase in diameter, there's increase in the number, you have increase in mitochondria. When mitochondria increase, we call it mitochondrial biogenesis. It's just the production of more mitochondria. Hypertrophy is great, but remember when your arm is in a cast and you're not using it, your biceps can atrophy due to the lack of muscle activity. You get decreased muscle size, decreased tone. If you don't use it, you lose it, decreased power. In adults, as people get older, between the ages of 30 and 50, about 10% of muscle tissue is replaced by fibrous connective tissue and fat. Between the age of 50 and 80, another 40% of muscle tissue can be replaced. So what happens to muscle strength and flexibility as people age? It tends to decrease. What happens to their reflexes? They start to slow down. And when people get older, we get the wasting away of muscles. You could see this where these are the bones, right? These are the metacarpals here. And in between, this should be muscle here. This should be muscle here, but look, it's wasting away. All of this is atrophying. They call it sarcopenia. And I measure this in my office. I use a dynamometer to measure hand strength. It's actually a meter that measures crushing force. I measured mine the other day. It was quite impressive. I was up at 180 pounds of crushing force, but remember, I use my hands all the time. Most people that I check are somewhere between 80 and 120. So there's a needle here. When you squeeze this, the needle moves this thinner needle, and then when the person lets go, the thin needle remains, and you can get the measurement. And you would check this bilaterally, left and right hands. And it measures strength. Now remember, strength of a muscle is secondary to innervation. So if there's a big difference between left hand strength and right hand strength by at least, 10 pounds of crushing force, it could be lack of nerve supply on the involved side. If they're symmetrical but weaker, now we're talking about perhaps they're not consuming enough protein in their diet, or the individual is consuming enough protein, but they lack the appropriate digestive enzymes in the stomach to properly break down the proteins to amino acids to build up muscle. It's very common. Very important for the elderly to have good muscle strength and tone because it's involved with their balance and their coordination. Very few elderly people, when you watch them sitting in a chair, watch how they get up from the chair. Most of them have to push up on the armrests. Very few can get up just by using the quadriceps strength. And this is concerning to me. It's one of the things I assess on my patients in the office because I want them living a long, independent life, and getting on and off a toilet is very important to them to do, relying on just themselves and not others. So I have them stand up and sit down several times just in my waiting room, just on the waiting room chairs to make sure they can do it without pushing up on the hand rests.